It
Uh,
really depends on the day.
yeah, yeah, of
And
course, of course. What is the, I guess, the thought process behind doing that versus scheduling it out for you?
um it's I don't know, it depends. Like for me, I like to just put videos out. I just like to get them out so people can just watch them whenever they want.
Sure.
But I depending on what it is I'm reacting to and like what time zone is usually you know the peak audience that actually watches it, that will usually kind of gear me towards scheduling versus editing, or versus just uploading immediately. Um, because as most people know, primarily my audience is in the Philippines.
Sure.
I have a large majority of followers in the Philippines. I've got followers all over the place, but I think something like 41% of my followers are in the Philippines. So like if I'm reacting to, a Filipino artist, I'll tend not to want to upload that at 4 o'clock in the afternoon my time because that's 4 o'clock in the morning over there. And I imagine that there's not many people over there who are really going to watch that. So if it's something like that where, okay, yeah, I've got the day off and I'm just editing, and I'm doing one of these artists, but it's the middle of the day for me. I'm like, okay, I'll upload it and schedule you to premiere at like 8 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock at night. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning over there.
Right.
Cool, whatever.
Right.
Um, but if it just happens to be around that time because, I work 700 million jobs. So sometimes I might be getting off of one job really, really early in the morning. So it might be 7 o'clock in the morning my time. And I've got a video that I've edited, but I didn't upload yet or whatnot. So then I'll upload that. And it's like, okay, well, that's 7 p.m. their time. Cool. Just upload
Yeah.
it immediately. So it all just depends on
But it
the
sounds like
time.
that's what you do most of the time because of what you just said. Like you just upload and you don't schedule, you just upload it and let it go.
Yeah, most of the time, whenever I upload or whenever I'm editing, it's usually somewhere around a time frame that
Okay.
just happens to coincide with where my audience
That makes sense.
is. Um, but every once in a while, it'll be the case where I just know that this isn't the time for this video, so I'll set it for later. Or if I promise, like, okay, this week we are going to have nothing. We're like I did think like an SB19 week
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago or something where I'm like, okay, well, this week you're going to get lots of SB19. But I know that, okay, I'm working all day Tuesday and I'm working all day Thursday. So obviously, I'm not going to have time to edit and upload Tuesday and Thursday. So then I'll just edit Monday, edit like 3 or 4 videos and just schedule this one for Tuesday, schedule this one for Thursdays. So I know that there's going to be this video that I promised you guys
Yeah.
waiting for you, even though I don't have the time to physically edit it right now. And
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine how this is being more general. This is probably a bigger thing for a lot of content creators. And so, like, I wanted to know your process because I know my process and I've talked about it sometimes, but this is your show. This is
you keep
the
saying that.
this is the Topher show. This is I'm just here as the guide or the questioner. But I guess like where I'm kind of heading with this is, you said that you really enjoy cooking. That's like your catharsis. That's or baking or
Mhm.
cooking. Um, that's kind of like how much do you get to do that right now?
Well, right now, not at all, because I
Well,
still
okay,
run the
yeah, okay.
kitchen.
So prior to, whenever you had the ability to.
When I had the ability to, I just invent hours in a day.
Oh,
I
okay.
just I
Do you
invent
sleep?
extra time.
Because I know I have already been and we've already talked about this outside of this. Like I know how much you work and I know like your upload schedule. Like how much time do you get to bake and do this thing that you really like to do?
Um, Baking will usually take priority.
Okay.
So I like to bake when I have the option, at
Sure.
least once a week.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes twice a week, depending on what's going on and whatnot. Usually, I'll bake for work. unless I've got like some party that I need to go to or something like that, then I'll bake for the party. But 9 times out of 10, I'm just baking for work because I enjoy baking, but I don't want it sitting around the house so that
Sure.
I have to eat it all by myself.
Sure.
So I'll bake and take it into work. And since I have 700 jobs, I've got lots of places I can take baked goods. Um, so yeah, I like to, and it's not like I have a specific dedicated day
Mhm.
to baking. It's just really okay, I haven't really baked in like 6 days, so maybe I'll throw something together. Or like at my job at the theater, every once in a while I'll just go to I'll go to all my coworkers and say, pick a number between 1 to 10. And they'll guess some number, and whoever guesses the closest, I'm like, okay, give me an ingredient. And then I'll just find some way of incorporating that ingredient into something. And that's just me playing around. Or sometimes I just get really, really I go through phases in my baking.
Okay.
Just like with my reaction
Of
videos and
course.
whatnot, I'll go through phases where like there is something that I'm all about at this particular moment in time. I might be all about this artist, or like this last week, I was all about History 3 Trapped. That show was everything in my life for the last like 7, 8, 9 days. My baking's the same way, where like 1 month I'll be all about making cheesecakes. So we're gonna make this
Ooh.
kind of cheesecake. We're gonna make this kind of cheesecake with blah 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 blah. And once I've perfected the recipe, I'm like, okay, well now that I've got the recipe right and I took it to this job, I got to make it for this job so these people can enjoy
Oh
it.
my
I got to make it for this
god.
person. Or there was a point in time there where I was all about making taffy, all about making saltwater taffy and just pulling taffy and great forearm workout. And I was just all about making taffy. Um,
Can I say,
sometimes.
like you are a very hard worker, Topher.
Mm,
Like even with your hobby here, I'm noticing like you do a lot for others. That also, of course, brings you some joy. Maybe not
yeah.
work, but you're also sharing all of these things. Like you're doing a lot, not just for yourself, but for those around you, and that's admirable.
Thank you.
And
I I try. Like I I always grew. I think it's thinking in my head. Like as a kid, I always grew up as a very sort of people pleasing person,
hmm
and I feel like that's a quality that's never fully left me.
hmm
So like and that's one thing that been talking about, getting negative comments and dislikes and whatnot. Earlier in the conversation, that's one thing that I had to learn and deal with, and just kind of move off the side, like, okay, you can't please everybody,
Sure,
because that is just something that was always a part of me. Very, very big people pleaser. um and I think to a certain degree that's still in me.
sure.
I won't say that everything that I do, baking wise or video wise, is for the sake of like, oh, I'm gonna please people, I'm gonna get them to like me and whatnot. It's because I genuinely enjoy what I'm doing there, but I feel like that element of people pleasing is still buried
Sure,
somewhere on the inside.
sure.
um,
Yeah, I can see that. It seems to me, and yeah, please correct me.
mhm.
You're doing a lot, and it just like even with your baking, I noticed that you're doing that for other people. What? And clearly, it brings you some joy as well. Did you ever just do it for the sake of doing it for yourself,
um
or do you have something that you just do for you?
I guess. Uh, yeah, I guess. Like whenever I'm cooking, like I differentiate cooking and baking. Like
Okay,
whenever I'm cooking, that's primarily for me. Every once in a while, I might bring something. Like if we have a potluck or something, I might bring something into work. But 9 times out of 10, if I'm cooking something, it stays inside the house. It's for
sure,
me,
sure.
or I might be having a party or something like that. But yeah, cooking is kind of like a me thing. I'm cooking stuff for me, or I'm dieting that week, and I'm, cooking these special things for me because I want, good, healthy stuff for me, and everybody else can have all this fattening, sweet, delicious stuff over here. Um, but yeah, I feel like the actual act of doing it is for me the
Okay.
end product of like me baking whatnot. Not always for me. It's usually for other people, but the actual act of doing it and discovering it is it's a me thing because I like the process. I like the
Yeah.
process of discovery and testing things, seeing what's right, seeing what's wrong, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and like I don't do it for like the accolades. So like, oh my god, this is
Right.
so delicious, Topher. You did amazing. Oh, I can't believe this. Like, well, I mean, obviously, I know it's good. I let it out of my house, but you didn't see the 15. You didn't see the 15 other things that I did
Yes.
before this.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
I have a reputation to uphold. I can't let everything out of my house. Um, but yeah, just that journey of just discovery and seeing what's right, what's wrong. It's like a puzzle, and
Yeah.
I like that kind of stuff.
That's a good
So the
answer.
actual act is for me. The end result is for other people.
I like that answer. That's good. That, I mean, I'm sure you're cooking a lot in that case, which means, you can't eat all of that. You can't even probably
Yeah,
refrigerate all of that. So,
no, it's and I can't waste food. Like
of
that's
course.
their children in Africa.
Of course.
I don't know what that has to do with my food, but they're there.
They could have that food if you shipped it to them and it was very spoiled.
Yeah, and we wouldn't want that.
We
So
would not want that. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. It was definitely something on my mind. Maybe even prior to this conversation, but it's definitely, I know, what works for me might not work for others. So I'm glad that is like, I like cooking as well, honestly. Like I love experimenting. Right now I am experimenting with everything jasmine rice,
oh,
right?
oh,
Yeah,
oh.
yeah. Yeah, so that's like, so I get that 100%. Now, I also just, I don't take mine to work because I work virtually right now, but
It's fair.
I, so everything that I cook is mainly for me. And I'm still honestly getting used to cooking for one person.
See, that's another thing. Another reason why I bring a lot of stuff to work. I don't know how to cook for one person.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in a house with three other siblings,
Hmm.
my mom, my dad, and my mom always cooking so that everybody could eat,
Yeah.
everybody could have seconds, and we have leftovers. I have no idea of how to portion control for a singular person. So even when I'm like meal prepping, I literally just cook a meal for a
Yeah.
family of five so they can have leftovers, and I just put it in
Different.
Tupperware and put it in my
Yep.
freezer. I have no way of like if I wanted to
I
just
would.
come home like I'm gonna make myself dinner. I have no idea how to downsize that to just a singular plate.
I was wondering how much of this potentially building up of just stuff to do might impact, what you're, some of this stress that you might be feeling towards the comments. Yeah, I mean, I get the people pleasing. If you're on YouTube to a certain extent, like I think you're at least somewhat liking
Yeah.
attention and wanting to please those individuals. It does sound like, at least from what I was hearing earlier, that there might be a little bit of guilt in there for some of the things that you haven't done or that you put in on the back burner.
Um, I don't know if I it's so much guilt for the well, mm, I don't know. I don't know that I'm guilty so much as like I just
I'm noticing some body language here, a
because
very
I,
sharp
I,
shift.
I'm thinking in my head how I want to say that. Like I
Okay.
don't know so much that I feel guilty about these things as like I just really wanted or whenever I thought of these things, they're things I thought of because I wanted to diversify the channel
Sure.
and show that while yes, I do enjoy this aspect that you guys see, and while I've come to, develop this aspect you guys see, there are these other things that I also like doing that I
Yeah.
feel like other people would probably enjoy seeing.
Sure.
And I'm just not making the time for those things
Sure.
because I'm really all about these reactions that I'm doing, which again, I enjoy. I enjoy. But
What emotion would you assign that then, if not a little bit of guilt?
Um, maybe no, I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm not sad about it. I'm not upset about it. I'm not really indifferent to it because I want to do it.
Yeah.
Uh, um, I don't know. I don't know if I could.
It doesn't necessarily just have to be the videos either, because I think, prior to your break, you had also mentioned, there were things that you wanted to do around the house. There were things that you wanted to just do outside of the channel,
Mhm.
even outside of YouTube. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be that second channel or the videos that you want to produce. In fact, I would actually encourage you to step outside of that a little bit and search those.
Yeah, I still don't know if I would assign it guilt, but it's really
Okay.
I I feel more not even that I'm procrastinating, but like that feeling when you feel like you could be doing more
Hmm.
and you're just not.
Sure.
Like I don't know that I necessarily feel guilty about it, but I definitely feel like there are things I could be doing more things that I'm not doing.
Let me ask you, you've already talked about inventing time.
Hmm.
So how do you propose that you would have the ability to do those more things?
Invent more time.
You can't do that.
I know,
Einstein already
which is why,
said.
which is why which is why I'm here. I ran out of time to invent.
That's why we're talking, right?
Exactly. Um,
Okay,
I don't know.
let's do an exercise here. Okay, let me break
Okay.
it down. Let me whoop. Okay, to fit all of, I didn't even. I had my eyes closed. I didn't even see you doing that.
Okay.
Um, so I kind of want to compare where things are now, the way that things
Hmm.
are going for you in these moments, during these times, where we are right now, to where you want to see them in the future, and what the ideal is to get to that future.
Okay.
What is your ideal? Like in the future, what how would you balance all of these things? Because there's a lot. You're doing a lot.
Yes.
How do you balance that? Where what's the ideal future for that?
Um, in an ideal future, I would probably say, because like right now, I work 4 jobs if we include entertainment, acting, performing, and I kind of just throw YouTube and all that stuff under that entertainment
Sure.
umbrella.
Sure.
So currently work 4 jobs, 3 of them consistently, and then entertainment as it, you know, comes out. Um, in an ideal world, that wouldn't be the case.
Okay.
And like right now, like I know in my head it's not a permanent thing. Like this is not a permanent way of life. It's not a permanent state that I'm in. Right now, I'm just working through things. I'm working through goals. Like I've got, bills I've got to pay. I've got loans that I'm paying back. I've already paid off X number of loans. Student loans are already out of the picture. I'm working very hard to, pay all these kind of things. That's why I work so hard. I try to
Yeah.
pay off these things so I don't necessarily have to worry about them later. So they're not still in my face.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, all that stuff would be paid off. So I wouldn't have to work as many jobs. I would just have, and I don't mind working multiple jobs. It's part of the reason I've kept them all at this point. Like I enjoy this job. It just wasn't enough to fully sustain life at this particular point. So I got this job, and then I enjoyed this job, but then I got so in an ideal world, I'd probably be down to like two jobs, two
Yeah.
jobs,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, if there's one job that I could do and it paid all of my bills, that'd be amazing. I would live for it, and have, money to actually have a life. That'd be
Ugh,
amazing.
ugh.
Like, sign me up on that train. But that's just not where life is right now, because my mom raised all of her children to be very hardworking, independent minded people. So I just have that sort of mentality where, like, yes, I could get a roommate. I
Yep.
could get roommates, and that would alleviate so much. And I wouldn't have to, do all this other stuff. But I'm just such an independent minded person where I'm like, I don't like to ask for help.
Yeah.
And don't like to have to depend on other people.
Yeah.
Um, so right now I'm just in that place where I'm independently working through stuff, and in an ideal world we'd be down to one or two jobs, and that would alleviate so much more time
Yeah.
for other things, whether it be stuff on the channel or stuff around the house or this, that, the other. It would just free up so much time. But I do spend a lot of time job to job to job to job. That
Yeah. What is the path forward to that ideal?
well, for right now, it's just to continue on the path that I have been on for the last couple of years, just working towards those goals of paying this off,
Yeah.
paying that off, paying this down, paying that down.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I have all these extra incomes, because I'm trying to pay this stuff down
That makes sense.
and still live.
Yeah.
So if I didn't have the stuff to pay down, then I could just
Live.
live. Um, so it's just constantly reminding myself this is not a forever thing. This is not permanent. This is a temporary part of your life.
Yeah.
This is just keep going, keep going, keep going. You'll get to where you need to get at some point. Like, when you were in your 20s, did you think that you were going to be a homeowner? Probably not. No. When I was in my 20s, I thought I was going to be a homeowner, white picket fence, husband,
Yes.
2.5 kids, all that, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then 20s came around and it's like, haha, gotcha. So still did all that minus the, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, and all that other stuff. But like, yeah, it's just a temporary phase in my life where, like, how a lot of people say their 20s are like their searching years where they're finding themselves and, discovering who they are. Um, I feel like that's kind of my my mentality towards this. This is just another phase of life that's going to be temporary. And then in the next phase, I'll be a strong, independent Black woman who don't need no man and only needs one job.
I can imagine that, us both having a master's degree in our fields, it didn't, um, it would have it cost a pretty penny. um, correct? Paying off education. Yeah.
Yes. Although I don't have a full master's.
Oh,
I
okay.
have half a master's,
Okay.
quarter of a master's. I don't remember what it
Either
was.
way.
I don't know. When I was going through graduate school, I was a TA at the time, and that
Mm,
paid for, I think, like 80% of
yeah.
the fees, and I only had to, pay the remaining 20% of the fees, which I was going to a public school at that point anyway, so it was
Right.
cheap relatively.
Right.
But then between being a full-time TA and then having full-time graduate work, like, it was just
A lot.
one thing suffered or the other. It was too
Yep.
much. So then I decided not to be a TA anymore. But since I wasn't a TA anymore, I couldn't afford to actually
Yeah.
be a graduate student either
Yeah.
without taking on an exorbitant amount of loans. And I was like, I did. So the plan was always to go back and finish, and life has taken on its own
Yes.
realm since then.
Yes.
It's always in the back burner of my head, but it's a very back burner.
Yeah.
Like I've got like 17 rows of burners, and
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you deal with all of that? Like all of those burners, so as you put it, like how do you keep that in your mind? Like do you just stuff it away? Do you just like what is your process in dealing with that? Because that's a lot. Like you just said 17 rows of back burners, right? Like how do you deal with that?
Um,
And
yeah.
make it look so casual on camera whenever you're on, recording these videos.
I guess I compartmentalize a lot.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, right now my focus is this thing I'm reacting to. So I'm going to focus on this thing I'm reacting to. Um, right now my focus is editing this, or right now my focus is cooking this thing or whatever. Like I just
Yeah.
compartmentalize and just try to focus on one thing at a time, because if I have to focus on too many tasks all at once, it's madness, and it just my brain doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So I have to just, can I multitask? Yes, but if there's like 700 things in my brain, my brain doesn't like it. So I just push you over to this corner for right now. I'll turn the burner off.
Yeah.
Put you on the back burner. And then once I'm ready, I'll turn that burner back on, bring it, deal
Yeah.
with it. But
Yeah. I know that this isn't like what we kind of, it's funny because we started off talking about this break, which, dealt with a lot of stress that you felt from the channel. And it sounds like there's a lot of stress in general, just outside of the channel as well, right?
oh yeah, life,
It's
life.
life. It's life as a millennial, honestly. How it seems like, if just kind of going off of our conversation, you used a lot of cooking, a lot of baking well, cooking is more for you, but you use a lot of those other methods to try and probably mitigate some of that stress.
Mhm.
Um, do you does creating content on YouTube or anywhere else, I suppose, um, help with that stress, or do you think that it hurts, that adds to the stress? Like, how do you, I guess, wrap your mind around that, or where does that space lie for you?
Probably say it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Um, like I'll create the content because I enjoy the
Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I'll react to something, or I might be reacting to a series of things and whatnot, where like I get to a certain point, I'm like, oh my God, I really enjoyed this. Like I could feel in my soul like this reaction video was so good.
Yeah.
And I'm so ready to share this with the world.
Yeah.
But like, and that's partially what happened with the series I was reacting to this last week, where it's like I got to a certain point where I'm like, oh my God, this episode 12, oh my God, I felt it. It was so amazing. But I still had like 5 episodes before that I had to upload. So like when it's stuff like that, me just like cranking through it just so I can get to this one thing that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love. I enjoy it. It's a good distraction. It's a good release, whatnot. But then there are all other times where it's like I don't like to promise things and not be able to deliver on them.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like going back to when I said that's usually when I start scheduling things sometimes. When like I might make a promise in an update video or something, like, okay, this week we're going to be doing blah, 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 blah. And then life happens,
Yep.
something happens, and then
Yep.
I didn't quite get to that. I don't like to feel like I'm letting people down or like I'm not living up to my word.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then their stress kind of gets in, where it's like, okay, you said you were going to do this. You're a man of your word. So invent fucking time to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you've lived on 2.5 hours of sleep before, live on 2.5 hours of sleep again.
Don't.
It's fine. Like, you
Psychologist in
said
me
you're
is
going
saying,
to,
don't do that. Don't.
well,
Do
I
that.
mean, life,
No, don't do
life.
that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Anyways, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, that's why Jesus invented Celsius. It's fine.
No. Don't get me started on energy drinks. You've seen my
But
tweets.
this one, yes, but this one's healthy. See, it accelerates your metabolism
Oh,
allegedly. That's what
listen. Don't get me even started on the marketing BS that is.
So it's a healthy one. It's full of all these B vitamins, and look, I got 1,000% of my daily value
Yeah, because that's
of
not going to go
biotin.
through. That's not just going to come right out in your urine. That's not just going to
Nope,
come straight out.
my body is absorbing all 1,000% of it right now. Yep.
Clearly. Anyways.
But yeah, so like it's give and take. There are times when like I really enjoy things,
Yeah.
and I'm just excited to put this stuff out. I'm like, oh, that was so good. I'm excited to get this out. I'm excited to get this out. I can't like usually whenever I do a recording session, depending on if I'm recording series reactions or music reactions. If I'm recording music reactions, like we mentioned, those are super easy to record, super easy to edit, just like bam, 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 bam. So in the time that my camera, because usually my camera will run for about like 4 or so hours before it needs to charge.
Yeah.
So then I can just sit here for four hours and get through like 16, 20 plus music reactions, if that were the case.
Yeah.
If I incorporate some, series reactions, depending on how long the series is, a half hour versus an hour versus 15 minutes, whatever, I can get a few episodes into that too. But sometimes, like, I'll record, say, 10 videos in this one session. And like 8 of those videos I'm super excited about. I'm like, oh my God, this performance was amazing. Oh my God, this episode got me so hyped, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited. So then that's when, people see like rapid fire, okay, bam, video, bam, video, bam, video, because I really enjoyed what I was reacting to, and I want other people to just to see it, to enjoy it, and
Sure.
enjoy, what I was enjoying. But then there are those other times where it's like, either I've made a promise, or I feel like this last week, since I was so heavy on the series reactions and I did no music reactions, like I feel kind of bad, not really bad, but kind of like, to the people who subscribe to me for just music, like,
Yeah.
hey, they've got nothing from me for like the last week and a half because I've been so adamant about these series. So it's
Sure.
like, okay, I need to create some music content for them as well. But I'm so invested in this series I'm doing over here, and it's like this push and pull. So it's like sometimes I'll stress myself out by feeling like obligated, like I need to create this particular content or this kind of content.
Yeah.
And other times I'm just excited. It's
Yeah.
it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But a lot of the stress that I do feel is very self-imposed.
Sure. Sure.
Like every once in a while, by once in a while I mean all the time, I'll get people in the comments like, "Hey, still waiting on this reaction."
Oh my gosh,
Or,
yes.
"Hey, still waiting on this
It was
reaction."
light on me for the longest time. Yeah.
Which, like, my friends who know me, at least they should know, some of them don't for whatever reason, but they should know that that is one surefire way to get me to not do something. Like the second you're like, "Hey, I'm waiting for you to do this," I'm like, "Well, hey,
Now
you're
you're gonna wait
gonna keep
longer.
waiting." Like the second I feel
Yes.
like it's almost the equivalent of like me being at a traffic light and the light turning green and someone behind me honking their horn
I'm gonna wait longer.
immediately. So it's like, I'm going. Don't worry, I'm gonna get there. But you rushing me is going to make me slow down.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes that happens, and sometimes I might, slow down a little bit too long because people push a little too much, and then I feel a little bit guilty because, like, okay, it's been X number of weeks since I've done this content or since I've done that content. So let me throw you a bone, let me satiate your appetite or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, the majority of the stress that I feel is more or less self-imposed.
Yeah, I feel that.
Probably going back to that whole people pleasing thing. I want everyone to be happy, even though I know I can't please everybody.
I was not thinking that. I was not even about to bring that up to you, even slightly.
Well, it's okay. I did.
Yeah, but I think that that's, at least, from other conversations I've had, it sounds like a normal uh, deal with a lot of content creators, is that there is that aspect of wanting to please, especially your audience, right? I mean, behaviorally, if we're going into the psychology of things, behaviorally, you're set up for, getting that dopamine hit whenever you get another follower or another 100 followers, right?
Yeah.
Like I literally still go in every once in a while. I'll go to sleep, wake up, find it like, I don't know, 10, 20 more followers, subscribers, and I'll be like, oh, that's so nice. Like I literally sit there and go, oh, like they thought that much of me for the
Ah, it's
content.
nice. It's nice.
And so, yeah, I mean, behaviorally, it's kind of set up for that. The thing with YouTube in particular is that you can actually, you can actually just post and forget about it and just let it go, which is always nice.
Sure, yeah, I can do that.
You can do
I
it.
don't.
I know you.
I,
I don't do it, but you
I don't,
can.
but I can.
I've heard that you can do that. I've just never tried it myself.
Like,
Usually, I'm
theoretically,
there within the first hour. Like, okay, who's commenting? What are my numbers looking
mhm.
like? What are some potential, like, kind of to wrap things up? Let's talk about, like, to start to get into that wrap up. Like, what's a hurdle that you can foresee kind of coming up to maybe get in the way of that ideal?
Um, some other just life
Hmm,
coming into the picture, some other major expense, some other major something that's
sure.
going to require a lot more adulting.
Yeah.
Like when the whole kitchen thing happened, like thankfully, thankfully I had already been saving things. I had already
That's good.
been building up my savings, not because I was expecting, a pipe to burst in my kitchen and to be without a kitchen for a month and a half. Um, but because I just wanted to have money in case, like I had two savings accounts. One's that's set up for taxes,
Sure.
um, because with like my performing job, especially whenever I'm doing like the children's theater shows and whatnot, they don't take taxes out of
Mm,
the stuff that I'm performing. So I make good money off of that, but since they don't take taxes out of come tax season,
you need to
I
report it.
9 times out of 10 I don't get a return because whatever money I made from performing is more than any other tax deficit I would have had from the other jobs where I was
Yeah.
paying taxes.
Yeah.
So like I have one savings account set aside for just taxes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just put money in here and I know that when tax time comes around, I've got this to pay my taxes with. Although I'm very, very good at
I'm
I'm very good
struggling.
with my I'm very good with my deductions. I'm
Oh, yeah.
very good
Okay.
at I'm very good at doing all that kind of stuff. So even the times when I do have to pay taxes back, it's usually by the time I finish, it's usually not an abundance. Like once I plug all of my numbers in
Mm,
originally, like I think last year there's like, okay, you owe the IRS $1,000+ I'm like,
about that.
you're hilarious, IRS. Let's let's start, itemizing these deductions. Bam, bam, bam. Like, okay, I owe you $70. Fine, fantastic. I can live with that.
Sure.
But
We gotta talk.
so
We gotta talk. We gotta talk.
let me tell you, this home office is paid for so much.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I've got that savings account set aside for just taxes in case that it ends up being something that I can't deduct my way out of, and I've got to end up paying this exorbitant amount. Well, I've got it sitting here just in
Yeah.
case. And I've got my other savings account for just life in
Yeah.
case I want to buy something pretty or in case, I need an extra tire or something like that. Life savings account.
Yep.
So when the kitchen decided it wanted to explode, well, that drained both accounts. And
Yep.
I was like, yay, that's fun.
Back to
All right,
zero. Yeah.
we're back to zero. So thankfully, I had that money set aside. It wasn't intended for that, but I had that set aside. So
Yeah.
if something like that were to happen again, that would be a very big hurdle.
Yeah.
That I would that would distract me, take me away potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, just life in general. Life, as
Yeah.
long as life doesn't get in the way of my plans, as long as life just
Get
stays out of my
out of
way.
it, life. Universe, just stop your meddling for like a year or two and we're
Yeah,
good.
then I'll be good. I'll be dandy. It'll be fantastic. So just
I
keep life
second
out of
that
the way.
motion. I second that motion for myself too.
Mm.
Life, knock it off. Um, yeah, so we talked about a lot. like we've been going for an hour and a half, which is way longer than my 50-minute sessions. I just want to point that
Really?
out. Yeah.
That was okay. I
According
didn't
to
realize that
time.
much time passed.
No, it was good. That's good. I guess we've gone in a lot of different directions. I want you, like, I kind of want to hear from you, like, what's something that you got out of this that you kind of expected, and what's something you got out of this that you didn't really expect?
Um,
It could be nothing too. It could be absolutely nothing.
I'd say I expected, like at the top, you asked me what were my intentions or what were my goals for this, whatever.
Sure.
So I'd say those were more or less met. I wanted to get just inner thoughts, inner workings of my head as a content creator, what's going through my head during my process, all that kind of stuff out there just for the general populace, for the world to hear and see and know and whatnot. I wasn't expecting well, I wasn't expecting to talk for an hour and a half. But
Good.
I
I have that
also
effect.
I wasn't expecting, I guess, to talk. Yeah, I was expecting to talk freely, but I wasn't expecting for it to, I guess, come as naturally as it did. Um, because contrary to popular belief, contrary to, what people see in my videos, very introverted personality type. Um, yes, I'm an open book, but I'm an open book you have to open and read.
Yes.
I'm not just one who's going to be like, hey,
Yep.
here's everything in life, blah, 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 blah. Like,
Yep.
no, like, you want to talk to me, you want to get to know me? Sure, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I don't have, but like, it just takes the actual effort to, try and crack open the binding,
Yeah.
unlock the padlock, and, blowtorch the, iron gate and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't expecting it to just free flow as much as it did,
Yeah.
which is kind of fun, kind of nice, kind of, cathartic in a sense.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to talk about while we're still recording?
No, I think we've touched on a lot of things. So just, thank you again for everything, and guys. I assume you guys are already following Synergic because that's
I'll
why you
stop
guys are
it.
watching this video.
Stop it.
But if you're not and you just happen to come across this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, turn on notifications so you'll be notified when all of his shenanigans
I'm gonna
get
be.
posted.
This is gonna be edited out anyway, so it doesn't matter.
If there's anything else you'd like him to react to, be sure to leave it down in the comments and he'll get to it as soon as he possibly can. If you'd like to support his channel in other ways, you're more than welcome to join him over on Patreon. You don't have to, but you're more than welcome to if you want to. And
I might have a Patreon, but I don't actually use it, so don't do that.
I was just giving my wrap up speech.
I know, but I wanted to make that disclosure just in case I pull a prank on my past self when I start editing and just say, haha, I'm leaving this in anyways, sucker. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, as we kind of wrap up here, thank you for, coming and chatting with me about this stuff. It's not easy, coming onto something like this and just being so open. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for existing and being you.
Thank you for existing and continuing to do the wonderful things that you do for all of those around you.